One of the hardest things to do in buying a business is coming back to the table and renegotiating price or terms of a deal that's already been locked in. This happens a lot, especially in instances where brokers hold back information until after you've submitted an LOI. It seems like those deals are the most likely to need negotiated because obviously you didn't have all the information ahead of time. And it always seems like maybe they're hiding it on purpose. It seems like every time a broker makes me jump through hoops to get information, I'm really disappointed in the information that I receive. But it's not uncommon to learn something during the diligence period that means this business is worth less than what you had originally thought. And usually it's just the business isn't performing as advertised in the CIM or CBR. The biggest thing, it's usually the current trends. The way that you get that is by looking at the monthly numbers. You can see how the business is trending. If the last few months are down 20% year over year, you probably have a problem. Now, I try to be as transparent as possible with the seller and the selling broker if we need to talk about price. First thing I do is I send them an email with what I'm seeing. I say, hey, as I'm going through the numbers, I'm only seeing about $300,000 in cash flow, and you said there was 500. Can you show me what I'm missing? I always try to give them a chance to correct me because, hey, maybe there's something I'm missing. I could always get something wrong. And then I make them agree that that cash flow number is the correct number. So we're on the same page, we're using the same cash flow in the negotiations. And then I think at that point, they probably know that the next meeting is gonna be to talk about price. So what we do is we set up Google Meets. Often I'll share my screen, I'll show what that actually means, that lower cash flow, usually that lower revenue, how it flows through the income statements, what it means to the acquisition, what it means to the after debt cash flow, what it means to the debt coverage ratio. And showing that I'm not just being a jerk and trying to get a lower price, it's just, we can't do this deal at that price. It has to be at a lower price. I may say something like, I need a 1.6 debt service coverage ratio to feel comfortable in this deal, and this is the price that gets us there. And that's really somewhat of a take it or leave it price. Sometimes we come to an agreement at the lower price. Pretty often we just separate as friends. We show this is as much as we can pay. Hey, we're being really transparent with you about why this is as much as we can pay. We think this is as much as anyone else can pay too, by the way. But sometimes the sellers, it's too much of a hit from what they had originally expected to sell, and they just decide not to sell the business. But at least we try to do it in a way that we part as friends, so maybe we can come back to the table later. Also, we don't want to get blacklisted by that broker. We want to make sure we stay on good terms with the selling broker for future deals. Sometimes there's disagreement on performance of the business. Say they think it makes 500 a year and is going to continue at that path. We think 400's the more accurate run rate. We can set up a forgivable note structure. So what that means is that if anything happens to the business, or if it isn't performing as we're expecting, essentially it's an automatic reduction in price. So if we put, say, 10% of the deal on a forgivable note, then based on if it hits certain revenue metrics, if it misses those revenue metrics, it's automatic 10% decrease in pricing. And in those instances, we're usually happy to pay the higher price because that means the business is performing really well. And then if it's not, then we get the lower price. But usually net, we're in the best situation if they hit the numbers. And just remember, these are delicate conversations. You don't want to ruin your reputation in the marketplace. It's a tough call on all parties, but it has to be done.